So you've got all these global changes, the consumers, everything has been reduced to the phone. Do you remember when Kodak was big? Do you remember Agfa? Do you remember the guys that, I always bemoan the fact that at my wedding, somebody came and took pictures, and then they said, you know, the film, if you want your pictures, you pay for each of those films, right? And so I don't have 60% of my wedding pictures because I couldn't afford it at the time. But today, everything is on the phone. You're making payments on the phone. There's been a convergence that is making mobility and the cell phone a central part of what we do and how consumers behave. And so when you're talking about scaling a business, you have to take that into consideration, that the consumer is no longer the guy that you know, was there in 2000, you know, prior to the internet. Today, you're going to the doctor, you can go and stand on a machine that reads and gives you 50 to 60 biomarkers. And you go to the doctor and you say, you know, doctor, I've got this issue, that issue, that issue, that issue, that issue. It's not the doctor telling you what you have. It's you telling the doctor 54 biomarkers concerning yourself. Can you see how things have changed? A doctor can make a prescription, and I mean, I see my children doing that. They go and they start Googling the medication that they've been given. And they tell you that, no, I think this medication will affect me in this way, that way, or this is this and that. Because consumer trends and behavior has changed, and everything is around mobility. Now, how do we build businesses in a digital environment? Now, when we entered into telecommunications, there's a lot of disruption that was taking place, okay? And in a digital environment, you either disrupt or you get disrupted. And we found that there were serious changes that were there around the business model. Today, a lot of companies that are struggling are not struggling because there's no market, are not struggling because there are no customers, they're not struggling because they don't have cash, they're struggling because their business model has not been constructed correctly. So in 1G, you know, they were asset heavy, everything, you know, usage based. I remember in Zimbabwe that the telephone company used to have these adverts where they said, do not jabba, 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 okay? In other words, reduce your usage. That's what they used to say, reduce your usage. Don't jabba, 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 jabba. In GSM or in mobile, we emphasize usage. And in fact, your business model is customer numbers times price times usage gives you a revenue. So in the fixed network, they were saying, in terms of the business model, we will tell you what capacity we have. We will choose the customers that we want. And we will control your usage. On the other side, in mobility, we're saying increase capacity as much as possible. Increase usage as much as possible. Increase the price to the extent that you can, except if it is in Nigeria where everyone complains about everything. So you know, can you see the differences in the business models? So I'm emphasizing the issue of the business model. What business model are you developing for your business? And is it a business model that can be scaled? Because if you are going to control capacity, if you are going to control usage, if you are going to control price, you will never be able to scale because that's the basis of, you know, your revenue. And so it's so important to be able to articulate your business model. Now, I'm going to give an example of Nokia versus Apple. What you see on there is the CEO of Nokia when they were taken over by one of the tech companies. At that press conference, he said something that is very significant. He said, "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." So they were doing the correct thing. And a lot of businesses right now are doing the correct thing. They are doing the right thing, but they are forgetting the forces of change, the modern forces of change. And so Nokia, Ericsson, those guys were so good at what they did. I think together they controlled 90% of the market. And Nokia was big. And Nokia used to produce Nokia 2110, 3110, 4110, whatever. You know, it would go on like that, okay? For them, it was a hardware game. For them, it was about perfecting the processes, taking control of what was going on within their, their technology. They were so focused, they didn't even interact with the market. They used distributors. They did not want to talk to the consumer, okay? Then came Apple, and they looked at this. Well, BlackBerry thought about it, but BlackBerry again wanted to control everything. Then came Apple, and Apple said, no, this is not, they said this is not a hardware game. This is a software game. Remember the guy who was playing soccer with the others, and he appeared not so good with soccer, and he picked up the ball and started running with it and kicking and running, and everyone said, "Foul, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm playing a new game, and it's called rugby. With this one, you don't just use your feet, you use your hands, you use this, and you push the other guy. There's no foul, you can just ram the other guy and run through, no problem." Okay? And this is exactly the attitude that we must have if we're going to build businesses that will survive in this current environment. You've got to be looking at how to change the game, how to create new rules. And technology allows us, anyone, because there's no one with a monopoly of the brain, you should be able to build something that just changes everything, okay? So Apple comes in and says, no, it's a software game, number one. So we're going to give you iOS, and with iOS, yes, the hardware might be expensive, but we'll give you the hardware for free. I mean, we'll give you the software for free. We'll give you updates for free. No problem. Where Nokia was saying, mine. These guys came and said, oh, here is our API. You can develop apps and connect to us and use our platform and service your customers. But we want to know who your customer is. We want the right to analyze the customer. We want the right to see the behavior of the customer. We want to own the customer. Nokia is saying, use distributors. We don't want to mess around with Nigerians. We don't want to mess around with the Kenyans, nothing. We just want the distributors. These guys were saying, we want to know you. You know, what do you like? What is your name? What is your age? Where do you live? Do you understand? So a business that will scale you've got to have control of information and be able to analyze it so that you can determine what the customer needs. So the business model itself, you need to be able to define your business model. You need to be able to identify the drivers of your business. What are the drivers of the business? You need to be able to identify the strategies, put in the structure, and then, of course, formulate the business plan. And now, the considerations Long back, the considerations were not hectic. But today with technology, there's so many considerations that you have got to take. You've got to put in, You've got to make a lot of decisions around, your business models. You've got to make a lot of considerations around your business to look at all the things that would go into the business plan. What are the things that impact the consumer? What is the consumer looking at? What are is your business model simple? Is your business model what are the key components that will make your business model work? So there's so many issues that you've got to look at there.